Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Carlson. Mr. Peterson. Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn. Mr. Ebinger.
Here.
Mr. Strand.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Sherling. Mr. Grinberg.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Seljavold.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Very good. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 24th meeting, please? So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Consent agenda, approve the following A, B, C, and D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
yes,
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Seljavold.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Very good. Executive Director report, Joe Paulson, please.
Thank you, Chair Mahoney and members of the board. Just a quick update on some things that happened this last month. We did have the Red River Basin Conference in town here. We did do a tour bus with the conference attendees throughout the entire project. So we went up north, looked at the reaches of the channel that our RVA are currently working on. And then we took the bus down to the diversion inlet structure. And here you can see some photos. The Corps met us there. Actually, the Colonel was involved in this conference and the tour as well. So he was able to do a bit of a presentation at the diversion inlet structure. And as you can see from the pictures, it's pretty much complete. We're still waiting on one gearbox and having some issues with that, but it sounds like we have a resolution and that's moving forward. So on that note, we are planning to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for that structure on October 27th. More than likely that will be the late morning on the 27th. So certainly put that tentative date in your calendars. More to come on that. The Corps is planning that event, and it will be a ceremonial turnover of the diversion inlet structure over to the authority. So very exciting time to kind of see that project wrap up. Additionally, we have some activities still on the planning committee where we're continuing to talk about recreation. We did deliver to the planning committee a recreation task force white paper that talked about what we can and can't do as far as recreation features within the diversion channel and the southern embankment area. So from this point forward, I did compile a list of potential task force members, and I did email that out to the planning committee. Certainly, I can send that out to other board members if they're interested to see that list, but we'll take up that topic at the next planning committee meeting in the next couple weeks here. One other thing to note, I think you all received an email from Terry Williams on the National Academy of Construction Award. This is a very prestigious award. Last year, I believe it was the LaGuardia Terminal won the award. This year, it's our project. So that ceremony will be October 12th. I believe the Colonel and possibly Chair Mahoney will be able to attend and accept that award. But certainly a high honor for the project. So with that, certainly open to any questions that board members might have.
Joel, I was at the Cass County Planning Commission this morning, and we were looking to do some zoning with a recreational area in the upper reach and the outlet of the diversion. My confusion is that they had a slot there for bikes and parking and bathrooms that were in that zone. And I was curious if that was part of our budget. Is it just zoned for that if we find funding? Because I know Commissioner Strand's been asking about the funding. But the curiosity was that we had to zone it such that they could have that type of set structure up there. So is that just might go there, but we have to find funding?
Good question, Chair Mahoney. No, we do have a number of picnic table trailhead areas that are currently in the plan for construction at the moment. So that certainly would have been one of them that you saw. There will be a continuous trail open to the public on both sides of the channel, along with a maintenance road that will be more than likely closed to public traffic. So to access those trails that are being incorporated into the current design of the project, we have a number of trailhead locations where people can park. There would be vault toilets there and picnic tables, and then they can access the trail system along the diversion channel.
Could you just send out to the members where the quote bicycle trail and those slots would be in the present plan if we had it? I think, John, you'd like to see that, but we at least could see that. I know the committee will go into other things. I wasn't aware that that was being developed. And I don't know, Kevin, what's on the Minnesota side as well. So just if you could show us what theoretically we have, because I didn't even know we had that as a basic. So thank you very much.
Yep, I'll have that sent out to you.
Somebody online has a dog. If you had put the dog in the kennel or something, so we cannot hear the barking.
Mr. Chairman, I would just a comment as listening. And so if we have a core that's already in the plan that's been budgeted for, I would think that you'd want to add that as an addendum to your white paper on recreational task force, so it's clear it's in a document. I'm assuming that white paper is going to have some life to it. So
Yeah, that's a good comment, Commissioner Grimberg, and we will certainly add that to the white paper.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
John Chalkley, resolution amending the appointment of members to the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I have a very simple resolution today. This is a resolution amending the appointment of members to the Finance Committee. The City of Fargo recently hired a new finance director, so this is just appointing the finance director to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think Susan Thompson is a good addition to the committee, and she's doing good work. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
yes.
Mr. Grimberg,
Aye.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Thank you. And now I have Terry Williams, should be online for the core project update.
Good afternoon, Chairman Mahoney and board members. This is the Corps' monthly update for September. For the diversion inlet structure, we're about 97% complete and only a few punch list items remain. Joel talked about the gearbox and the issues related to the gate machinery. We anticipate those to be resolved by November, December, and then training and commissioning of the entire structure for the diversion authority would follow. Joel mentioned the ceremony we're going to have on October 27th in the morning, and we'll work with Joel to get those details to you very shortly. So please save the date. It's going to be a great event. Number 2, wild rice structure, that's nearing completion as well. It's holding at 3 December. Right now, the contractor's working hard to complete the dam embankment across the old river channel before freeze up, and they're completing the bridge deck also across the structure. Very impressive drone footage of that's been captured in the last month or so. Number 3, I-29 raise. Traffic should be completely switched to all 4 new lanes by 1 November. That's a very exciting thing as well. That'll be another contract that we'll be completing very shortly. Number 4, Southern Embankment, Reach SC1. Again, we're in O&M manual development at that, and when we get the Diversion Authority's comments, we'll incorporate those and finalize that manual. Number 5, the Red River structure, about 30% complete there. Ames has driven about 13 miles of H-pile for the foundations and is making great progress on getting most of the concrete placements done for that structure before winter. Completion is still 19 March 2026. I'm going to skip down to 7, Drayton Dam. The construction completion, we were anticipating that most of it, or, vast majority of the main construction would be done 30 September. The contractor is owed a bit more time to 20 November, basically due to adverse weather conditions and then differing site conditions as well. But the turf and the landscaping will be done next year as planned. Reach SE2A is coming along nicely, about 67% complete. Contractor working hard to get as much embankment done before winter freeze up, and about 1/3 of the embankment is at full design height or about 20 feet above existing ground. Moving on to all the ongoing design, the bottom line is all 4 contract awards we have planned for 2024 are on schedule, and that should be the largest year for contract awards for the Corps on this program. Couple more items. Joel mentioned the NAC Award being presented in Boston on October 12th, and working on a video to be played at that big event. And the last item, Colonel Swenson, Carl Jansen, and I are planning to attend your next board meeting in person on October 26th. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Terry. No drone
Welcome.
today, Chris? Anything like?
It's coming.
Oh, okay. Are
So
you
next
done?
we'll do construction updates for
Okay.
the Diversion Authority. As you see on the map, we're continuing to color in our tan color, which means there's work being done in that area on the project. So as expected, we're quickly moving towards having some construction activity all the way down to I-94. They're working towards having all the levees up to 94 constructed before winter freeze up, and then we'll excavate the channel in the reach between a little bit west of I-29 down to 94 through the winter months. Again, they started in reaches 6 and 7 this last month doing levee construction. They've also started prepping for the crossings on 38th Street and 52nd Avenue South. So those are in the works. They're also working on the Cass County Highway 10 bypass as well. Again, coming up in the next 30 to 60 days, they'll be entering into reaches 8 and 9. Again, mostly focused on levee construction right away, and then channel construction through the winter. They also are working on some drain inlets, County Road 20, 32nd Avenue, and County Road 14 projects will also likely begin here in the fall. A couple of general updates on construction. We had one of our most productive months. They moved 2 million yards of material in August. They're still making up some ground from the spring slowdown due to the spring flooding, but they are making steady progress to continue to catch up on schedule. They've got I-29 and County Road 81 asphalt completed for the bypass. If you've driven that way, they've got 1 lane of traffic moving on the bypass now, and they'll continue to stage that until all 4 lanes of the interstate are on the bypass. Yet this fall, they should be opening the County Road 81 bypass any day if they haven't already. Then they're working on piling at Maple River Aqueduct, and they're working on bedding and riprap placement at the diversion outlet. So making nice progress on those. With that, stand for any questions related to the channel construction.
Any questions? Good.
As requested at the last month, we have started to implement report outs on safety. So we're gathering information yet, but we do have information to share on the channel construction project this month. The chart you see here is a pretty standard safety chart. Categories typically in first aid, near misses, motor vehicles, and recordable events. You'll see the dark blue bars are each of those types of events throughout the course of the project. The lighter blue are ones that have happened in the last reporting period, which for this report is through August. So we've worked, the channel construction has worked about 536,000 hours so far, and those are the events that would have come out of that. So they're continuing to work through their typical safety. They've got training that they do. They do safety audits on a regular basis. They've gone through about 182 new hire orientations, which include a safety brief. They also brief all of us as far as their safety program before we're allowed to be on site. So they have in my mind, a developing and well-working safety program. Again, just real quick update on the authority projects. We have not had any incidents to date on our authority-led projects, and the city of Fargo has had one incident that didn't result in any lost time or restricted duty. So with that, I'd stand for any questions on the safety update.
Any questions? Commissioner Strand, is this what you wanted to see?
I'm really pleased to see this, and I hope we continue this mindset for every contract we award, that we look for similar data for our contract bidders to just confirm that they have an adequate, satisfactory safety track record as well, or that they're on track for that. But thank you.
You bet.
Very good.
With that, I think next is the drone update, Mayor.
Good.
I'm Tom Fuchs, Senior Construction Manager for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, back with a progress update on the FM Area Diversion Project. Drivers throughout the area have likely noticed work along Interstate 29, whether traveling north or south out of Fargo-Moorhead. On the south side, Industrial Builders is working on raising a 4-mile stretch of the road out of the 500-year floodplain. With the southbound lanes recently completed and traffic shifted onto the new alignment, the northbound bypass is now being removed. Crews have also removed existing pavement, completed the grade raise, and are paving the last remaining portions of the northbound lanes near the County Road 18 interchange. Work is anticipated to wrap up by the end of the year. About 26 miles north of there, ASN Constructors is building an I-29 bypass of its own. Recently, portions have been paved and southbound traffic is now diverted. In the coming weeks, traffic will remain staged as work continues to extend the bypass lanes across the median and fully tied in. Similar work is occurring nearby as the County Road 81 bypass is expected to open to traffic by the end of this month. Once all traffic shifts are complete, ASN will focus efforts on constructing new bridges spanning across the stormwater diversion channel. You might be surprised to learn that if you continue driving north for more than 100 miles, you may encounter another FM Area Diversion Project site. In Drayton, North Dakota, HSG Park Joint Venture is working on the Drayton Dam for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They removed the Drayton Dam structure and constructed a new dam 300 feet upstream consisting of a rock rapids fishway. It's the last dam on the Red River main stem to be improved to mitigate environmental impacts for fish. By placing riprap and boulders in a pattern, HSG created pools that allow fish to pass freely. This helps maintain biotic connectivity and improve river health while also promoting public safety for boaters. The project, which began in July 2022, will wrap up next year when landscaping is completed. Returning to the metro area, we can see continued earthwork on stretch 2A of the southern embankment. The 22-mile earthen barrier is being built in sections. 2A spans 2 miles and involves excavating 693,000 cubic yards of material, enough to spread more than a foot deep across the entire 420-acre campus of Minnesota State University Moorhead. Once the southern embankment is completed, it will hold back water during project operations while the gated structures regulate the flows both into and around the metro area through the completed stormwater diversion channel. The largest of those structures, the Red River structure, is taking shape. Ames Construction is working on the abutments and approach wall footings and preparing to construct a temporary bridge across the Red River. At the Maple River Aqueduct location, ASN Constructors has completed excavation and placed layers of sand and gravel separated by geotextile and reinforced with geogrid below the structure's base. They also recently began driving the first of more than 48,000 lineal feet of H-piles to be installed at the various structures making up the aqueduct. Lastly, a quick update on the Drain 30 inlet to the stormwater diversion channel. Concrete pipes are now installed and are partially backfilled. Crews are now forming concrete headwalls on the downstream end where the drain will empty into the channel. These are just some of our September highlights. You can always find more on our social media channels or by subscribing to our e-newsletter at www.fmdiversion.gov/subscribe. I'm Tom Fuchs.
Yeah, we don't need to see it twice. Thank you, Amy. You're going to give us an update as well?
I will. Good afternoon, Mayor Mahoney and members of the board. I have a short communications update for you. We've had a lot of interest by high schools recently in the project as they're delving into different units on construction and engineering, and so we've tailored some of our tour materials so that it's more suitable for that audience. We also released several videos this past month. The Faces of the Diversion was of Tyler Cole, who's a pile driver with Ames. We also did 2 brief project updates that fell between the drone videos on the aqueduct and on the Red River structure, and a fast fact video on how much rebar was going into the Red River structure. In terms of media relations, we saw some project coverage in Construction Equipment Guide. The Forum did a piece on the cemetery mitigation. Western Builder News also covered the project and the funding model with Jacobs. And then the Grand Forks Herald did a piece on the Drayton Dam. So next up, we'll have our October newsletter with a focus on the aqueducts. And we interviewed Yuda for the Faces of the Diversion. He's the Bridges and Aqueducts Manager for ASN. The last newsletter continued to perform well. Nearly half were opened, which I know seems like you'd want to see more, but that's still well above industry average, and very high clicks and interest rate. So that's all I have for you this month, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the group? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice videos. Land management update. Jody Smith, you going to manage that?
I wasn't on my toes today. Good afternoon, board. Before you have 2 maps. On the left-hand side is a comprehensive project overview. You can see again, as I've noted previously, we've completed the acquisition process along the channel. All the settlement negotiations agreements are in place. We simply just need to close on some of these properties and everything will turn to green. On the right-hand side, you can see a map that focuses in on the upstream mitigation area. Everything that's highlighted in green, we have acquired the necessary property rights. Everything that has that goldenrod color, we're still waiting on a couple appraisals. The Cass County Joint Water Resource District did approve 3 of them this morning. We'll have a handful more coming in October. Everything that is in blue is still in negotiations, and then everything that is red, that dark orange color, is in eminent domain. On the next slide, then, you can see within the construction footprint, we did month-over-month close on 3.7 of the properties. And again, in the upstream mitigation area, we're sitting at just under 44% of our acquisition has been completed. By location, the Southern Embankment associated infrastructure, you did see a pretty significant bump up at 4.3% since last month. The majority of the remaining properties are sitting in Minnesota on SE4 and SE5. Upstream mitigation area, again, just under 44%, and then environmental monitoring easements is kind of holding steady at about 72-73%. I did meet with the Corps a couple weeks ago, looking at the remaining EMEs that are needed throughout the project area and creating a strategy on how we're going to move forward with those. On the next slide, then, just a landowner overview, and if you can just skip to the final slide, I'd like to just kind of talk through some of these. We are continuing to negotiate settlement agreements with existing eminent domain actions. Chris McShane and I were successful in reaching a settlement yesterday on one particular parcel that we'll be bringing to the Cass County Joint Board next week. Again, it's always important to note, just because we file eminent domain does not mean that the negotiations cease to exist. In the last month, we have successfully closed on 10 parcels, and we have agreements signed on 24 additional parcels. If we have a purchase agreement signed, that means we're just simply waiting for the closing. That's a testament to the work that our land agents are doing, and also our legal counsel that has to kind of get all the minutia of all the paperwork lined up and then get to the title company in order to close on these. We're preparing the last written offers in Minnesota. We just had a lengthy board meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. It went a little bit longer than we had intended it to go, but they did authorize us to move forward for approved resolutions. We'll be going to the Moorhead City Council on October 23rd, and then we'll be going to Clay County on October 17th, making a formal request that they approve these last written offers that then will be sent to all the property owners who have not settled with us at this point in time. It's important to note at that meeting we just had, the board did approve settlement negotiations with 6 property owners covering 12 parcels. I do anticipate over the course of the next month, as we send these letters out, that we'll see an influx in negotiations coming to the board for approval. The last item on there is we did submit the first plat of our project. Oh, go back up real quick. Oh, you got excited. Submitted the first plat for the project for the diversion channel. That was the Weiser Township. That was approved this morning at the Cass County Planning and Zoning Committee and subsequently by the Cass County Joint Water Resource District. We're going to continue to go through all those replatting along the channel. Our goal is to have that completed here by the end of the next calendar year. Any questions that I can answer on the status report prior to jumping to the next item?
Don't think so. Good job.
So the next item that we have before you today is implementing our excess lands policy. So it's probably the first time I've been before you making this request that we be able to implement that policy. We have 3 separate requests before you. They're all very different, so we'll probably need to take individual actions on all of them. The first one is the SE1 excess land sale. If you can skip down to the map, Paul, I think it's really helpful to kind of see what we're talking about. Excuse me, thank you. So within SE1, the lands team started proceeding with acquisition of any necessary property rights. This was acquired primarily in fee simple. When we got the final right-of-way drawings from the Corps, we needed a little bit of a less footprint than was originally anticipated. So you can see there's a parcel kind of on the top of your screen there, be on the western side of SE1, and then there's one further south, both those green strips that Paul's outlining for you today. Those are not significant strips. One of them is 7.5 acres, one is 3.17, and one is 3.12. We do lease these out every year. You can see in the packet that was provided to you what we do acquire in these in our leases. And again, it's not significant, but it is something that we need to go through. What we'd like to do is have the board today approve us going through the excess lands policy. That would mean the first offer would be to the previous landowner. The second offer, if they don't want it, would be to the neighboring property owner, which just happens to be the previous landowner. And so we'll step through this process and hopefully they'll want to purchase this back. One of the questions that came up at the Lands Committee yesterday, because this one has gone to the Cass County Joint Water Resource District, they have approved it. The Lands Committee has reviewed and approved this. This has also gone to our Technical Advisory Committee, and they have looked at it. That's important to note because a lot of the stakeholder groups serve on those committees, and so I'm not aware of any interest from any of the stakeholder groups, but the policy does require that we do a formal notification of all the stakeholders. We'll wait 30 days. If they're not interested or they waive the 30 days, then we'll move on to the previous landowner. The policy also does allow the executive director to set the market value rate. I've made recommendations to Mr. Paulson on all 3 of these that you'll be seeing today. In this particular instance, I'm going to recommend that the market rate be set at the land value at which we purchased it. So for 2 of the parcels, the first 2 that are listed up there, so that'd be OIN 5024 and 5014. Those are both approximately $5,500 an acre. And then 5278 is approximately $7,000 an acre. Any questions I can answer on this?
So an action on this would be to move to approve this action, basically?
Correct.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson, Mr. Pepcorn, I'm sorry, Mr. Ebbinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg,
Aye.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Salzbold.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Next item.
Okay, the next item then before you is the Cass County right-of-way for excess land sale. So I've been working with Jason Benson for probably over a year now. He brought these to me a while ago and they kept sliding to the back burner as we were working through some other issues. But these are just little strips of land that the county has identified that they would like to purchase from us so that they can extend their right-of-way for road improvement projects. The value of these has been set at the purchase price that we acquired them by. This has gone to Cass County, I believe, back in July, and they have approved this. And this hopefully mitigates some challenges that Mr. Benson would be faced with in the future if he needed to go to any of the property owners when we purchase this property from us in the future.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Aye.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzbold.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Okay.
The last one before you today is OIN 507Y. If you scroll down to the map, Paul, I think that'll be helpful. This is nearly a full quarter section of land. We need approximately 9 acres in the southeast corner of this for the project. At the time that we purchased it, the landowner preferred that we purchase the entire quarter section from him. So we went ahead and did that. The reason it's coming before you today is a couple fold. One, I'd like to exercise the excess lands policy. I've been in my previous position, I've written policies, I've written administrative rules, and always write them in good faith. And then when I go to implement them, I'm always like, dang it, I didn't think of that. And so when you go to exercise them, sometimes they can behave a little bit differently than the policymakers intended them to. So I was looking for a parcel of land that wasn't being requested in any land exchanges for settlement negotiations. Also one that would be significant enough that would draw attention from some of our agricultural producers. The other reason I'd like to recommend this for the excess lands policy to start working through that is the northern portion of this, and you can kind of see the difference in the shading of this. That is actually pasture land. We had a well on that land. The land failed. The well stopped working recently, and we did get a quote on that. The quote of that is about $11,000 to repair it. At this time, because there's no water and the tenant has to haul in water, we're only leasing this at $20 an acre. So we did estimate that it would take approximately 28 years to get a return on investment from that $11,000 well. On the southern portion of this, then we do have it rented out for tillable acreage. We're collecting about $150 an acre. So it's a very unique parcel, but again, it's a little bit more challenging to lease out that northern portion of it. So I'm recommending that we go ahead and start working through this. Again, it'll go to all the stakeholders first. If there's not any interest, it go to the previous landowner, and then it would go to the neighboring property owners. If there's no interest in it from the neighboring property owners, and it would go out to public auction. This one in particular, when working with Mr. Paulson, I did make the recommendation that we complete a full appraisal on this. The Cass County Joint Water Resource District did approve the task order for that appraisal this morning. So if it's approved today, we'll go ahead and have Crown start working on that. That appraisal then would set the market value, and that's what it would be offered to the stakeholders at, and then again to the previous landowner. We kind of go through the excess lands policy. So this one's a little bit different than some of the other ones, but I do anticipate in the future, if we start divesting ourselves of some of our land holdings, that we certainly would want to make sure that that policy is behaving as it was intended to.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Yes.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzbold.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Thank you, Jody. Finance update, Mary Dardis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the board for approving the appointment of Susan Thompson to the Finance Committee. She's doing a great job for us. Yesterday in Susan's report, we had bills that were approved for the reporting period for $3,933,527.35. Our net financial position is at $215,068,862. Another thing that Susan has helped us with is the cost to date, the dollars that we've spent on the project to date is $955,909,680. I will also report that we're presented the draft budget for 2024, and I'll emphasize that it's a draft budget. We have a number of projects that we're not quite sure that it will clear in 2023, might move to 2024, but at this point in time, the draft budget number is $218,373,943 for 2024's cash budget. And again, it is a very preliminary budget at this point in time. That's all I have. Stand for any questions.
Bernie, do we have to vote on the WP 388 award bid, or is that taken care of?
The Finance Committee did bring that forward. Mr. Bakagard, I believe, is moving to the microphone to address that. We usually let staff deal with those.
Yes, Mayor, we should take a vote on that. Yesterday at the Finance Committee meeting, we presented one recommendation for award for a project bid that was conducted this month. It's work package 38B. It's 6 property site mitigation project. We received 2 bids. One was a little less than our estimate, one was a little more than the estimate, so we felt like we got good bids. Our recommendation to the Finance Committee, which they approved, recommending to the board, was to award the project to Schmidt & Sons Construction in the amount of $407,557.75. And Mayor, I did look, the 75 cents comes from a unit bid, so they had a bid of $1.35. When you do the math, you get 75 cents. So that's where it came from. So it wasn't anything funny, just a math thing. So
Thank you.
you bet.
Do you have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg,
Aye.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Selgevold.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner Strand had asked some questions about their investment report, basically, and Susan Thompson is going to give us a report about how we manage the billions of dollars we have in our accounts.
Hello, yes, thank you. I don't have anything prepared to hand out, but if you'd like, I can do that at a later time. But I think it would be helpful if we could go to page 8. And what I talk about will tie to that. It's the statement of net position. So obviously I'm new to my job, so this was a good project for me to do a little history. A couple things. The responsibilities of the city are outlined in the fiscal agent agreement. It's not page 8 that I'm looking at, the one that has the statement of, next one. So that's the cash that we're managing. So the responsibilities are spelled out in the agreement for the fiscal agent, and basically it says that the city will manage the cash in the same way that they're managing their current cash. So that's exactly what we're doing. A couple things to point out, though, when I was doing some research, obviously there's a big difference, I guess, on the previous page when you look at interest. Last year, the total year was $1.5 million, and year to date we're at $5 million. Well, the easy answer for that is we have more money and interest rates are higher. But I wanted to know what that is because I hadn't seen that. So I did some research, and it looked like last year the average cash was about $120 million. And the interest rate last June, for example, was 1.2%. So that, and compare that now to the $214 million we're carrying in cash. That's a big difference. Fortunately, interest rates have gone up as well. So when we look back at that page 8, there's a few different buckets of cash. The first one that's easy to identify is all the cash that's held at the Bank of North Dakota. We don't manage that. That's held there for reserves. So then the top three lines, we have two strategies at the city. We have our short-term borrowing, overnight basically. We have that invested. Kent set up, he's worked with Wells Fargo on a government mutual fund that basically does a 100% sweep overnight. That account pays 5.2% right now. And then for our longer term investments, we work with PFM, who's now affiliated with US Bank. They do longer term investing, but given the inverted yield curve, we've moved all those down to shorter maturities, and that is currently at 5.19%. So one of the conversations that we had is obviously when the yield curve changes, we're going to want to look and see if we need to make some adjustments to that. But then that's going to be a lot of coordination about when you're going to need your money, because right now that cash is available tomorrow, and that's what we've been managing the money with. Any questions?
Commissioner Strand.
That's really something to see that type of return now compared to a year ago. Thanks for preparing this, Susan.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
maybe just to
Commissioner
follow on, Joel and I talked about this earlier in the week. You know, we've got an overall program budget with multiple sources of funding between local, state, and federal. We've got a project budget, and then we've got a contingency set aside. You know, with this increase in interest rates, you know, where are we parking that additional income that we didn't budget in the scope project? And the thought I think I shared with Joel earlier in the week was we should carry that into the contingency line so it shows that number growing versus, you know, just a thought for the finance committee in the future. And I'm not sure if that was discussed this week or not.
It was not.
You know, that money in a year from now will be $10, $12 million. And so where do we park it? Well, to me, it seems logical to go into the contingency line for now.
Okay.
I would certainly agree with that.
Or maybe a recreation plan.
I knew you wouldn't resist on that, John. Very good. Thank you, Susan. Any other questions of her? Kevin, I can never beat you because now we got to have an executive session, so.
Mayor, before you do that, are you on other business now?
Other business, Commissioner Strand.
I'd like to advance a topic to consider for our board and peers. And this is just my thinking, but we have a project now. For several years, we didn't know we had a project. And then we got to the point where we had a settlement that opened the pathway for a project. What I'd really like to know is what would the costs be now if we hadn't had a settlement and we hadn't had the green light? And I'd like to have us start tracking to the public. This is how much it would be now if you hadn't, and let us start seeing the graphic, because I'm sure it's immense. And that's got to be part of our narrative going forward, is how critically timed it was to get that going forward, especially in the change of the economy since then. Someday, when you're all bored and have nothing better to do, it'd be a report that I'd find interesting.
You're going to allow Bernie to use his imagination to figure out all the configurations of what would have happened if we hadn't happened? Yeah, okay. Bernie, thank you.
I'll
Glad
pick up
he's
the
the
phone
chair.
and call Paul Barthel and Mr. Joel Paulson. I think that's above my pay grade.
Item business 11, are you stepping up for that, Joe?
No, I'd like to make a comment
Oh, okay.
to Commissioner Strand's request there. When we closed on the P3 deal, we, in collaboration with the Corps of Engineers, we did do an analysis on the impact of the P3 contract versus traditional delivery of the channel itself. And that process then showed in 21 that it saved $330 million in 10 years of schedule in order to implement the channel component of the project. I have been talking with Ms. Terry Williams about potentially updating that. And so we are actually in the works of taking a look at what that might look like. And we can bring that forward at a future board meeting and let you know, Commissioner Strand.
It'd be a really great narrative. It'd be a great addition to our narrative to the general public.
I agree, and I do use that $300 million and 10-year escalation of schedule quite often in presentations that I give to certain groups. And so I was thinking myself, these numbers are a few years old now. And with all the inflation that we've seen over the last couple of years and material price escalations, I certainly think we should go back and make sure we're giving an accurate account of what we believe the project savings are. So.
I think, Joel, another thing might give interest to the board is where did that 75 million go? Because we know now that the Wilkin and Richland County have spent part of that. So it would be interesting. There were some things that we had wanted to accomplish that to help their communities, and it'd be nice just to give a report of how it's impacted in many of those communities.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Chair. We can have that on an upcoming agenda as well, and show where that money has been spent all to date.
So item 11, we're going to have a closed executive session pursuant North Dakota CC 44-04-1901 for attorney consultation regarding a project agreement for the stormwater diversion channel and associated infrastructure. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzabald.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
No, I'm back. And yes. It's Chuck.
Good. You came back, Chet. Chuck, thanks coming back. We're going to go upstairs to the Red River Room and third floor, and we will come back just to adjourn the meeting after that.